It's always a difficult thing to see something you've enjoyed being passed off to someone else to manage. That really seems like a weird thing to start off a video by stating, but it happens all the time, especially in the video game world. Many games are loved by fans only to have them mismanaged by another company that tries to meddle with what made it work in the first place. If you don't believe me, take a look at what's going on with Subnautica 2. While the developers are the same, the publisher has gone off the deep end and impacted the possible release of the game. Sometimes the new company that takes over developing a sequel for a beloved game franchise can create a stronger version of what fans already love, but many times that isn't the case. A smaller yet critically acclaimed series, it seems to be going through a similar transitional period, so I took it upon myself to see what's in store for those who wish to stick with the intellectual property, and even check in on what the previous developers are up to, and I feel like I may have stumbled my way into an odd situation. But what are these companies, and did the demo for the newest game in the series live up to its aspirations? Stay tuned to find out. Now, this is where I would usually talk about the game itself and who develops it, but I want to mention a brief history of the series as well as giving an update on what the previous developers are working on before getting into my time with the demo. Firstly, if you haven't played the Little Nightmares series, then you may not know that this is an atmospheric horror platformer game set in a world with distorted and dangerous adults. Giving massive vibes similar to the film 9, you play as small characters that must navigate the much larger dangers of the world, and both of the first two games were developed by Tarsier Studios to critical acclaim. When Tarsier Studios was purchased, the intellectual property of the Little Nightmares series was excluded from the sale, which instead stayed with the publisher of the games. The publishers, a little studio by the name of Bandai Namco, decided to continue the legacy of games given that they own the intellectual property, and they passed the task of a third game to the studio Supermassive Games, which is known for their work on the Until Dawn series, small pieces of the Little Big Planet game series, as well as contributing to their creation of the enhanced edition of Little Nightmares 2. Tarsier Studios has since announced that their next project is going to be another ominous atmospheric game called Reanimal, which at first glance looks like the same sort of style of game as their previous works, but it isn't set to release until sometime for 2026. For now, let's take a look at the demo for Little Nightmares 3 before getting into my final thoughts, but strap in because this may be a bit of a rant. The demo for Little Nightmares 3 should take you about 20 to 25 minutes to complete. I completed my first run in closer to 40 minutes. Part of that was due to the fact that I was hesitantly moving forward as I wasn't sure what to expect around every corner. Some of that was due to me making mistakes, but a sizable portion was due to the nature the game puts forth, which is trial by error. There were a few rooms that I had to redo several times before I understood exactly what I was supposed to do, which was a little frustrating. One major point of difference between the previous iterations and this new start is the addition of co-op, which also came with its own levels of frustration. Each character has their own special weapon that has a way of solving what this game would refer to as puzzles. I have to say it that way because it very rarely took more than a second to walk into a room and say, "Huh, I bet I need to use the bow to shoot the crow to drop that key." Now, counter to the obvious, the game has a tutorial system that should show you how to play the game, which notice the emphasis on should there. As I started the game, I was immediately stuck because I didn't know the controls and there was no heads up on how to do things, but once I dropped off the edge to my death, the game decided to enlighten me. This was a reoccurring thing at the beginning where I would just struggle or wait until the game finally told me about some new button I needed to press in order to do something. Worse than that was my time dealing with the co-op aspect through a single player lens. It felt like at some point the other character should just teleport to me if I'm the single player playing, as there were several times where I was waiting for them to catch up and it would genuinely take close to 20 seconds before they reached the obstacle that required both of us to be there in order to ensure we didn't separate too far from one another. Also, I had a laugh when the computer willingly shot a beetle from the sky on their own, only for that beetle to drop on them and killed them, making me have to start that section over through literally no fault of my own. Even if a player was controlling the secondary character, I felt there was no real reason for a second player. Very rarely did a puzzle require a specific character to do something for the other character, and thanks to asymmetric co-op games like It Takes Two, Split Fiction, and the We Were Here series, developers really need to understand that having a game be co-op just to be co-op isn't really all that appealing anymore. There should be a need for the other player, and both parties should feel like they're contributing equally to the team's success. I've had a few days to think about it, and maybe I'm just the wrong audience for this style of game. I honestly don't have the experience of playing the first 2 games in the series, which seems a bit odd that I may choose to cover the third in the series, but once I played the demo, it just felt like something that should be brought to light. It's all too common to see a successful series be handed off only to result in it becoming less than what it was before. Supermassive Games is a studio that has a proven track record, but it almost feels like this game was decided to be a co-op game first without understanding how to best implement the mechanics. I hope that later in the game there will be times where the characters are forced to separate, but with a wonky AI, it's actually really hard to implement that for those who are looking to play the game by themselves. Little Nightmares 3 is set to release on October 10th, and I hope that this is just an instance of a poorly made demo, but because of my experience, I will have to say that I'm just gonna have to pass on this. But with that, that'll be it for this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and as always, be kind to one another. Shoutouts go to Relativity, Naughty Dog is King, Chaos, Kamikolo, alongside all those subbed to the channel. I recently hit the 500 sub marker, so thank you for everyone who has subbed. I don't really know if I have a video planned for it, but if you could think of anything, let me know in the comments. But either way, I will see you soon.